My name is Avery Hale, 32 years old. The night I gave Liam the watch, the room smelled like orange peel and clean linen. I'd left the curtains open so the city could look in and witness us, lamplight hovering like a street halo over our tiny dinner table. The watch box sat between the wine glasses, small and square, the kind of modest that makes you lean closer. I'd save for it like people save for second chances, a steel case, sapphire crystal, an honest white dial with a sweep. Seconds that didn't tick so much as breathe. No diamonds, no flecks. Just an engine built to keep its word. He opened it and his face crumpled. The first words out of his mouth weren't words at all, just a sound like he'd bitten into a memory. "Avery," he said finally. It's perfect." He cried. I did too. We took the usual photos, my fingers on his wrist, the watch catching the light like it had been waiting for this exact room, this exact us. He posted the clip with a caption about time meeting right person. I posted nothing because some things don't need witnesses to be real. For 3 months, the watch behaved like a promise. On time, unbothered, faithful. He checked it when he was nervous, thumb on the bezel. That absent little caress that said, "I have an anchor." If love had a heartbeat, you could count it there. Then Meredith got engaged. Meredith, as in his ex, not toxic, not saintly, just the kind of ex who had a knack for being where your self-worth goes to compare prices. She invited us to her engagement party like we were all adults about it, which, technically, we were. Her fiancé showed up gleaming with tech money glow, and on her wrist sat a watch that wasn't a watch so much as a billboard, solid gold, diamond bezel, sunburst champagne dial that reflected faces like a funhouse. Every time she lifted her glass, the room noticed. On the drive home, Liam kept glancing at his wrist, and then at the window, where his reflection kept returning a watch that wasn't gold, wasn't paved in light, wasn't north of anyone's salary. He turned the crown, unnecessarily. Checked the time 3 times in 10 minutes. The car filled with a silence you could tap and hear ring. At home, he set the watch on the dresser instead of the valet tray where he'd always placed it. Small rebellion. Small signal. Tuesday, over pasta, he said, "Avery, we need to talk about the watch." I put my fork down. "What about it?" Look, I don't want you to take this the wrong way." He sipped water he didn't need. "It's kind of cheap looking. Embarrassing, even." Embarrassing lifted its head like a stray dog at the back door. It knew how to get in. I said nothing because my mouth was busy keeping in the parts of me that wanted to leave the table. He went on, gentler, like he could soften the edges by lowering his voice. "Meredith's fiancé got her that gold piece. People noticed. Mine next to hers. People will think you didn't even try." "I tried for a year," I said. "Saved for a year. Picked a movement that'll outlive us." He shrugged. "But image-wise, maybe we could upgrade it? Two-tone, diamond markers, something that looks like a statement. It's not that I don't like it. You just don't like how it looks next to hers." "That's not fair. I'm just being honest." He tried a smile. It slid off. "Honesty," I said, "would be telling me whether you actually like the watch when no one's looking." He stared at the table. "It could be better." "The watch I bled overtime for is embarrassing? You're being dramatic." "Try another word." I kept my tone flat, like a sheet pulled tight. "The second you said embarrassing, you didn't insult steel and gears. You insulted the hours I didn't eat out, the weekends I freelanced, the nights I learned what a 4 hertz beat looks like on a time grapher." He rolled his eyes, as if my vocabulary was the problem. "Meredith's fiancé works in tech too. He managed something spectacular. If you hate it that much," I said, "give it back." He laughed, a little airless burst. "Stop. I'm not returning it. I just think we should enhance it." "No," I said, "seriously. If it humiliates you, hand it over." The fork in his hand hovered, indecisive. For a second, I saw confusion cross his face like cloud over water. He reached for my hand instead, patted it the way you pat a toddler's back when you want them to stop crying. "We'll talk when you're less emotional." That night, sleep refused me. The apartment hummed with refrigerator light and the faint tick from the kitchen clock, cheap quartz, each second a noisy accusation. I pictured the watch's seconds hand, quiet and smooth, a river compared to the kitchen's metronome. And in my head, the word kept looping. Embarrassing. Something about how easily he'd said it, like the syllables had been pre-sliced for convenience. Wednesday morning, he kissed my cheek and left for work wearing the watch like nothing had happened. Like nothing should. Something had. Time didn't feel like a circle anymore. It felt like a fuse. At lunch, a message from Meredith popped up on Liam's lock screen while his phone flickered face down on the counter. So did she say yes to an upgrade? Derek knows a guy if you want gold without the full price. I wasn't snooping. I was cutting lemons. The notification glowed regardless. I touched nothing, but something touched me, an understanding that some people don't want time. They want applause. That evening, he chatted about wedding venues as if a watch were just a watch. He talked deposits and packages, and his fingers never strayed far from his wrist, as though checking that the offending object still existed. Later, when the shower steamed the mirror, he set the watch on the bathroom counter. He always takes it off before he steps into the water. Hot showers aren't for fine movements. He'd learned that from me. I stood in the doorway and watched the seconds hand glide to 12. Smooth. Certain. On the glass, water gathered, trembled, slid. In the fog, I could see my own reflection behind his, a ghost with steady hands. If an object you give to someone becomes the thing they use to measure your worth, it stops being a gift and starts being a leash. The shower turned off. The watch lay there, clean and unafraid. I dried my hands, and very gently, like handling a sleeping bird, I lifted it. The original box was still in my dresser. Time has a place to go when people don't. I didn't put it back yet. Not that night. I just held it long enough to feel the hum I'd purchased with my hours. Long enough to decide. If the watch embarrassed him, he shouldn't wear it. The kitchen clock ticked. The mechanical seconds swept. Between those two truths, I chose mine. By morning, the watch was gone from the counter, and so was my patience for pretending things were fine. When Liam noticed, he called out from the bedroom, half-dressed, half-smiling. "Hey, did you move my watch?" I didn't look up from my coffee. "Which one?" "My watch, Avery, the one you gave me." "Oh, you mean the embarrassing one?" That word hit like static. His mouth opened, closed, then forced a nervous laugh. "Come on, don't start that again. Seriously, where is it?" "It's safe." I said it simply, like weather. "Safe?" He frowned. "Safe where?" "Somewhere it won't embarrass you anymore." The silence that followed had weight, like time itself holding its breath. He tried charm first. "Babe, you're joking, right?" When I didn't flinch, he set his tie down. "This isn't funny. I need it for brunch today." "With Meredith and the tech crowd?" I asked. "You'll survive." He rubbed his temples. "Avery, please. People will ask questions." "Then tell them the truth." I stood collecting my mug. "That you didn't like it." That earned me a sharp exhale and a slam of the closet door. 10 minutes later, he left. Wrist bare, pride dented. That afternoon, my phone started vibrating across the counter. First message, "You're being childish. Bring it back." Then another, "This is insane." And another, "I need it. Everyone will think something's wrong." I let the screen go dark. 2 hours later, my doorbell rang. When I opened it, Meredith stood there, in designer sunglasses and casual authority, with Liam's best friend Evan, hovering behind her like moral support. "Can we come in?" Meredith's tone wasn't a question. "You already are," I said, stepping aside. They sat on the couch like an HR panel preparing for mediation. Meredith crossed her legs. Her gold watch caught the light and threw it across my wall. "Liam told us what happened," she began smoothly. "Avery, taking back a gift is not healthy. It's a form of control." I raised a brow. "Control?" "Yes. You're withholding something that represents your relationship." "Interesting," I said, setting my coffee down, because last week he said that same symbol was embarrassing, so I took it somewhere safe, for him. Evan shifted awkwardly. "Maybe you could just give it back, clear the air." Meredith leaned forward. "Avery, we all have standards. Liam just wanted something that reflected his status. That's not wrong." "Standards?" I repeated, keeping my voice even. "I spent a year saving for that watch. It wasn't about status, it was about meaning. If your idea of love depends on its retail value, that's not a standard, it's a price tag." She blinked, a little thrown. "You're being emotional." "I am emotional," I said quietly, "because I gave someone time, in every sense, and he told me it embarrassed him." That landed harder than I expected. For a second, Meredith's perfect composure cracked. Evan cleared his throat. "Okay, I think we should—" "Yes," I said, standing. "You should." By evening, Liam came home furious. "What did you say to them?" he demanded. "The truth." He threw his jacket on the chair. "You humiliated me." I looked up from my laptop. I just returned the favor. He stared at me, the muscles in his jaw flexing. You don't get it, do you? You can't just take something back because I had one opinion. One opinion? I repeated. You called the gift I worked for embarrassing. That's not an opinion. That's a verdict. He exhaled hard, pacing. Fine. You want to teach me a lesson? Congratulations. You did. Not a lesson, I said. A boundary. He stormed into the bedroom, muttering. For a while, the sound of drawers opening and closing filled the apartment. A man searching for something he already lost. The next morning, I woke to find a new watch on his wrist. Gold-plated, oversized, loud. The kind of watch that screams rather than ticks. It wasn't fine craftsmanship, it was costume jewelry trying to pass as legacy. New watch? I asked from the doorway. He smiled, tight and defensive. Got it on sale. Looks great, right? It looks heavy. He twisted it toward the mirror, admiring himself. Now no one has to ask questions. About what? About why my girlfriend took away my gift. I stared at him. You mean the one that embarrassed you? He looked at me through the reflection. You're really not going to drop that, huh? No, I said, because every second you wore that watch, I thought it meant something. Turns out it just measured how long it'd take for you to compare it to someone else's. He turned, jaw tight. You're making me the villain. No, I said softly. You're just revealing you always were your own. That weekend, he posted a picture. Him in a cafe, latte art in the foreground, his gold watch front and center. Caption, when you finally wear something that fits your worth. He didn't tag me, but Meredith liked it first. And suddenly, the watch wasn't just a symbol of time, it was a scoreboard. I sat on my couch, scrolling, my heartbeat syncing with the quiet tick of the clock in the kitchen. Every sound in the apartment felt too measured, too exact, like the seconds themselves were keeping track of who'd changed first. I didn't reply to his posts, his messages, or his mother's long voicemail about forgiveness and understanding. Some silences are not absences, they're verdicts. By Monday, I'd boxed the original watch properly and placed it in the back of my closet, beside old photo albums and promises that had outlived their purpose. Time doesn't heal everything. It just makes sure you remember what hurt. By Wednesday, the apartment was quiet in the way only resentment can be. Steady, predictable, almost polite. Liam had started coming home later, carrying new bags, new receipts, and a cologne I didn't recognize. The scent was sharp, metallic, like someone trying too hard to smell expensive. That night, he dropped a glossy stack of printouts on the counter. Okay, he said, voice tight but rehearsed. I've been looking at options. Options? I asked. He tapped the pages. Trade-ins. We could exchange your old watch for something more appropriate. I stared at him. Appropriate for what? For us, he said, like the word itself had money attached. These aren't even that expensive. We just pay the difference. I picked up the papers. Gold, diamond accents, skeleton dials, so busy they looked like excuses. The cheapest one was $15,000. The most expensive, $22,000. You realize, I said, the difference you're talking about is my rent for the year. He sighed. You're being dramatic again. It's an investment. In what, your ego? He leaned forward, his tone sharp. In how people see us. I don't want to be the guy whose girlfriend cheaped out. The words landed with surgical precision. I didn't flinch, mostly because my body had learned how to absorb impact quietly. I folded the papers once, twice, and dropped them in the trash. He didn't even look surprised. You're really impossible sometimes. I'm consistent, I said, rinsing my cup. That's rarer than gold. The next day, he came home with something new on his wrist. At first glance, it looked expensive. Polished links, sapphire tint on the glass, deep black dial. But under the light, I caught the truth. The color wasn't deep. It was painted. The shine wasn't from steel. It was from plating. A knockoff, probably one of those fashion brands you buy to impress people who don't know better. You like it? He asked, watching my reaction. Everyone at work did. It's loud, I said. It's confident, he corrected. People respect that. I smiled faintly. So the louder it ticks, the more respect you earn? He shrugged. Image matters, Avery. Right, I said softly. That's why you're losing yours. By Saturday, he had changed his strategy. He came into the living room carrying 2 glasses of wine, an attempt at peace wrapped in Cabernet. I don't want to fight, he said, setting 1 glass in front of me. I just want us to move forward. Forward, I repeated. From what? He sat across from me. From this standoff. From the watch thing. It's not about the watch. Then what is it about? He asked, his voice lifting, half pleading, half defensive. It's about you needing the world to see love the way it sees status. He looked away. That's not fair. I think it's perfectly timed, I said. You don't want a relationship. You want a brand partnership. He laughed once, brittle. Wow. We sat there for a long moment, two people listening to a clock on the wall that refused to pick sides. Sunday morning, he made eggs for one. By noon, he'd gone out without saying where. When he came back 3 hours later, there was a box in his hand. He set it on the table between us. What's that? I asked. Something to fix this, he said. Just open it. Inside, another watch. This one enormous, gaudy, covered in tiny stones that caught the light like glitter. He grinned. Problem solved. Now no one's embarrassed. Congratulations, I said. You finally found something shinier than self-awareness. He frowned. Why are you like this? Because I watched you trade meaning for noise, I said, and now I'm realizing I love the wrong kind of movement. He didn't get it, the pun, the metaphor, or the heartbreak under it. That night, he posted another photo, this time of both watches side by side. His caption read, "The past and the upgrade. Some people just can't keep up with time." It got likes from Meredith, Evan, and a dozen mutuals who'd once congratulated us for being goals. I didn't comment. Didn't need to. I just saved the screenshot, filed it under proof that some lessons wear faces. 3 days later, his father called. Hi, Avery, Dennis said gently. Can we talk? Of course, I said, though I already knew what was coming. He sighed. Liam's miserable. This whole situation with the watch, can we just put it to rest? Give it back, maybe? I paused. Why? Because he's hurting. He says he can't move on. Dennis, I said softly, your son isn't hurting because of the watch. He's hurting because he thinks everything valuable should make noise. A pause. Still, it might help him let go. I nodded, though he couldn't see. All right, but I'm giving it to you, not him. When he arrived that evening, I handed him the box. The watch sat inside exactly as it had the day I bought it. Polished, still, heartbreakingly precise. Dennis took it with both hands. Thank you. It's not about forgiveness, I said. It's about closure. An hour later, Liam came through the door wearing it. Like nothing had happened. Like time itself had decided to start over. He smiled. See, we're good now. I looked at him for a long moment, then said, No, we're not. The smile faltered. I apologized. You said the word, I corrected. You didn't mean it. He scoffed. You're overreacting. No, I said. I'm finally reacting appropriately. He blinked, unsure how to respond. I gave you time, I said quietly, and you used it to measure how far beneath someone else I was. That's not love. That's inventory. He stepped closer. Avery! Don't, I said, stepping back. The engagement is off. His jaw tightened. You're ending us over a watch? No, I said. I'm ending us over what the watch revealed. He stared at me like I'd spoken another language, then turned toward the door. You'll regret this, he said. Maybe, but some regrets are cleaner than compromises. The door closed, and for the first time in months, the apartment didn't echo. It breathed. Somewhere inside the box, the second hand kept moving, unbothered. Time never stops for anyone, but it waits long enough to see who learns the lesson. It's strange how quiet an apartment becomes once the arguing stops. The silence wasn't peace, it was absence, and it echoed like an empty room after a storm. The smell of his cologne still lingered in the hallway, faint and metallic, like the ghost of ambition. For a week, I didn't hear from Liam. Not a text, not a call, just the occasional like on social media from mutual friends who hadn't picked sides yet. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. The first sign of escalation came from my building manager. Miss Hale, he said, knocking on my door one afternoon. Your boyfriend tried to get a copy of your apartment key, said he was locked out. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. He doesn't live here anymore. That's what I told him. The second sign came 2 days later from my bank. Ma'am, did you authorize a transfer from your future fund account? My heart dropped. That account, the one we'd once called our wedding fund, wasn't joint. He must have seen me type the password once, quietly watching, the way he used to admire reflections. The bank froze it before the transfer cleared. They advised me to change everything. Passwords, pins, questions, all of it. I did. And when I was done, I looked around my apartment and realized something grimly poetic. He had tried to steal time back. From me, from the future, from the seconds he'd wasted chasing someone else's idea of value. But he didn't stop there. I started hearing from people. Friends, colleagues, even one of my clients. Hey, Avery, one text said. Sorry to ask this, but did you really control his money? Another. He said you isolated him, that you hid things from him. I didn't even respond, because every accusation had proof of its opposite. Photos of him smiling in restaurants I'd paid for, posts of the vacation I'd planned, stories tagged with captions like, "My amazing girlfriend knows how to treat a man right." It didn't take long for people to put the pieces together. Even Meredith backed away, quietly unfollowing him after he sent a DM to her fiancé. A message that began with, "You ever wish you'd picked someone who understands luxury?" That was the collapse, the moment his house of glass finally cracked. One evening, just as the sky turned to steel, a message came through from an unfamiliar number. "Liam, can we talk one last time?" I should have ignored it, but curiosity is a clock of its own. It keeps ticking whether you want it to or not. We met at a cafe near the river where we'd first talked about moving in together. He looked smaller somehow, not thinner, just deflated. The gold-plated watch was gone. The original one, the one I'd given him, was on his wrist again. He saw me notice and smiled weakly. "I wear it every day now," he said. I shouldn't have said what I said. I didn't answer. He rubbed the back of his neck, searching for words. "You know what's funny? The watch doesn't keep perfect time anymore, loses a few seconds each day. Guess that's fitting." I took a sip of my coffee, waiting. "I finally get it," he said quietly. "It was never about the watch. It was about what it stood for. Time, effort, love. You gave me all that, and I traded it for a comparison." Still, I said nothing. "I'm sorry, Avery," he whispered. "Truly, I'm seeing a therapist now, trying to figure out why I cared so much about how things looked. I ruined something real for something shiny." I looked at the man across from me, the one who'd once made me feel seen, and later, small. His hands trembled slightly, like even he didn't trust his own steadiness anymore. I said, "You didn't ruin something real. You just reminded me what real should look like." He nodded slowly. "Do you hate me?" "No," I said. "Hate would mean you still take time from me, and I'm done giving you that." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I deserve that." "Maybe," I said, "but you don't deserve to keep pretending this was ever about a watch." I stood, left enough cash for my drink, and walked out. Behind me, I could hear him whisper something. Maybe goodbye, maybe I'm sorry, but the sound got lost in traffic. A week later, his father called again. "Liam's selling the watch," Dennis said. "Says he's putting the money toward therapy sessions." I thanked him for letting me know. After we hung up, I sat by the window, watching the city lights blink like 1,000 tiny seconds, each one disappearing before it could be caught. Then I logged into my account. The Future Fund label was gone. I'd renamed it Solo Travel Fund. Booked a flight the next morning. One way, no destination set in stone. I left the watch memory behind, but I packed something else. My own time, my own rhythm, my own pulse. On the flight, as clouds folded beneath the plane like linen, I wrote in my journal, "A watch doesn't tell you how much time you have. It tells you who you're giving it to." Some people measure love in diamonds, others in seconds. I measure mine in lessons learned, and in all the moments I'll never waste proving my worth again. If someone ever calls your best embarrassing, believe them. Then walk away before they start trying to buy back the seconds they stole. Because time, once gone, doesn't rewind. It just leaves you wiser the next time someone tries to sell you gold for love.